Hi guys, this is Witch of the Black Sea, and I just had this very wonderful idea of how interesting would it be to actually be able to use the cards to get a bit of an insight into what happens and what has happened or what will be happening in the lives of the people who we kind of majority of us know already, all people who are kind of renowned or have been renowned in the past or have been famous in the past, have contributed towards our lives in a certain way, be it a major contribution or a bit of a more minor one. So as of this moment, I'm thinking about concentrating on Alexander McQueen, and I'm having this very interesting series of thoughts about him and about what his inner world was like. So I'm going to start by asking this very first question, and this question is going to be related to his inner world. How did Alexander McQueen mostly feel like within his own lifetime? What was the general repetitive type of emotion or a feeling that he experienced in his lifetime that kind of meant a lot for him? What did he feel the most connected to, maybe, or what was a repetitive type of there is this interesting phrase about the red threads in a certain relationship or in a certain story or in a certain scenario or in a certain book. So what was the red thread, der rote Faden, as they say in German, in Alexander McQueen's life? Let's see. I'm having the feeling that I would like to choose two cards only here. Yeah, interesting. So we have the Lenormand cards here, and we're talking about the inner world and the inner type of a gist, the core of Alexander McQueen's feelings and what he was striving for mostly in his lifetime. And it seems that it's not to do with love or with any specific other person, or it doesn't even have to do much with happiness. What I'm seeing here is the card for reputation and inspirations of creativity and inspirations. That's the moon card, number 32 from the Lenormand deck. And it's all about how you are perceived or perceive yourself within your own lifetime, and how you reflect on your successes. We're talking about vocation here, and about fame, and about career, about careeristic endeavors. And just next to that card we see the whip card, actually not the whip card but the scythe card, sorry, it's my mistake. So on the side here we see the scythe card, number 10, and giving us this clue about final decisions and about sudden changes in career and sudden abrupt endings or final decisions that need to be made with regard to vocation and how you perceive yourself and your fame and what you think about when you think about fame. So within this person's lifetime, within Alexander McQueen's lifetime, it seems that fame and critical decisions had a priority or a certain devotion to a career or to a certain type of an activity that inspires that person, have been quite predominant in combination with critical thinking, problem solving, and abrupt changes. Very much actually in tune with his dynamics, with the dynamics that he had in his life. Moving on to, let's say, what his personal intimate life was like. So let's just say what's the lowest point in his love life and what's the highest point in his love life. So those two events here, let's just try to concentrate on those two events. The lowest point in his love life was related to anxieties and to worries about loyalty. So it seems that within the lowest moments in his life when it comes to love, the main question that Alexander McQueen was asking himself, and maybe the main issue that he was discussing or arguing about or having the most challenges directed to, was diminishing of loyalty and issues with loyalty and issues with anxieties that sprung up from a place of maybe not being secure and maybe not being able to be loyal to a certain person or devoted to a certain person, or maybe it had to do some with a certain disappointment, but for sure a certain diminishing of loyalty here that was the lowest of his very personal situations when it comes to love. And when it comes to the highest moment of his life, he did definitely experience pure love or very heartfelt emotions towards someone and very deep emotions towards someone who he may have been a long time with, or someone who he may have felt would have been a bit maturer in that situation. Let's say they have definitely probably been a bit of a mature person, or they felt quite close to each other on a more mature level, and then this was also combined with the idea of very, very strong heartfelt feelings. If we have to elaborate a bit further on those two situations, and let's say elaborate a bit further on the lowest moment as to how did the loyalty get challenged, or what was problematic within the loyalty and diminishing of the loyalty, what was the cause of that, we would see that we're having the bear card here. So it seems that loyalty that is directly or indirectly related to a certain power or a certain business. So it might have to do with the idea that he was quite busy and he was quite stressed, and this didn't let him express his loyalty and or didn't give him the chance to develop any connection with someone within that period of time, his lowest period of time, where he felt a certain loyalty. So this loyalty was lacking because of work-related engagements and tasks and schedules, and work-related devotions here, commitments, let's say. And when it comes to the most positive scene in his life, this scenario where he felt this purity, this mature type of love, a bit more grown-up love, whom was it with? It seems to be with someone who has had certain situation of choosing. So it was someone who was probably on crossroads, or someone who has been on roads in general, or someone who has traveled a lot, so someone who had to make a choice, or it was related to a certain choice, and someone who wasn't very clear in his own brain, or maybe someone who had a series of mental distress. So it seems that there's more mature love here that was expressed between Alexander McQueen and that person. It seems that also it was kind of challenged by those mental cloudiness and this indecisiveness of that person, whoever he has been or he is still. If we have to find out a bit more about this person and about their character, we would say here that they are actually a person who is quite renowned in a certain network, or someone who liked networking, or even worked in the area of a creative business. Why did it not work out? Because of a certain immaturity. So maybe Alexander McQueen was at a more mature level and he was ready to give that love. Maybe that person who he was kind of interested in and had such strong emotions towards was a bit more immature and a bit more childish, and he didn't know how to choose and what way to choose because of his mental chatter inside of his being. Why did Alexander McQueen decide to end his life is another very, very, very actually tough question. I don't know if the cards can answer that. Let's just ask them. They're here in my hands, constantly being shuffled. And if I need to pick up a card here that resonates with the closest reason as to why Alexander McQueen chose to end his life, the main card that will come up here would be completion. So without even having intentionally picked up anything or intentionally pre-organized any cards, or I don't even ever do that, it seems that the cards are reaffirming here, confirming here that he felt quite completed. He felt that he reached a certain, mentally maybe a certain end of a cycle that he couldn't see the out way from, and he just didn't see an exit. The only exit that he could see was the fact that everything was ending, and that together with it, he felt that, as much of a touchy-feeling topic it is, that he had to also complete that cycle by ending his life. Further to this is that he was quite burdened. Just picking up that card, it seems that his beliefs were challenged to such a major degree that the only thing that was left for him to imagine was to not imagine anything else in the form of stopping this existence, or putting the end of this existence, and of this creativity and imagination, because they were too hurtful and too burdening. Everything seems to have been quite a big burden at that point, and a necessity for completion that never saw any other alternatives viable, apart from ending the life of that person. And it happened quite immediately. It came in stormed in quite immediately, quite abruptly, quite strongly, quite quickly. And further to this, it had to do with certain work related attachments and attachments in general. We all know that Alexander McQueen was quite close to his, obviously as a child, to his mother, and also there were a few other, as far as I know, connections that were quite of a big importance for him, and they were a bit shaky. We could refer also to very, very likely to the disappointment and sadness that happened to Alexander McQueen after Isabella Blow's death. So we are also seeing that type of attachments in any aspect and shape and form, in also the shape and form of drug abuse, which was also present at that time. At the time of the suicide, there was the involvement of cocaine and a new phase, a change of phase. So it seems that whatever we feel here, whatever we think about here, and whatever we say about this reading here, that it kind of picks up the basics, the basic key points here of what exactly happened. If we have to ask how Alexander McQueen feels about his whole life, and if we have to pick two cards here, the cards that would come up would be a lucky lesson. So a lucky type of lucky story, lesson of gambling and of playing with life, not in its negative way, but in its pure way of looking at things as luck and things incoming, events incoming that give you a lesson, that bring you a lesson, and also events that make you feel lucky. A lucky type of a lesson, a fortunate type of a lesson. In the end of the day, I'm sure that all of us, once we reach that stage of evaluating our lives, after we pass through the gates of existence and transferred over to another dimension, whichever it is, with all those abilities to evaluate our lives and to see our life as a film role, I can see and I can say as well, and I can understand as well, that the most important thing here, and in all other lives, in all other instances, is to know that all is an experience, and it's a lucky type of an experience. Bad or good things, good or bad things, are never seen the same way as they are seen on Earth. They're never seen the same way in other planes and in other dimensions. There's always more to be seen. There's always this realization of what's been good for someone has been bad for someone else, or what's been bad for someone has been good for someone else. So good and bad have always been relative, and there has always been a lesson and an experience worth having in both instances, in both positive and negative events. So it seems that in the end of the day, whatever has happened in this person's life and whatever we have felt was a series of sad moments, a series of challenges, and a series of successes, is seen altogether as a lucky type of a lesson, as a lucky type of an experience, a positive experience altogether, that only enriches and makes you feel wiser, makes you feel that you have transformed and transcended over challenges and over obstacles, or you haven't and still you have learned your lessons. So it's all about the lesson here. What's the purpose of life, if you might ask here, in general, is looking at life through the eyes of a child and constantly experiencing the new, the unseen, the unexplored, exploring things and gathering experience. Because what is the truth purpose of a child? Gathering information about its surroundings and creating his or her own world as such, creating this new reality of beautiful things and not so beautiful things, a mix of all shades. That's what a child does. So I wish for all of us to really I wish for all of us to really be able to continue and to keep this ability to look at life through a child's eyes, with this fascination and this drive, this curiosity and this willingness for exploration, and lack of tiredness, with this drive and motivation that only a child has, not being burdened by preconceived or already gathered preconceptions and prejudices with regard to life and how it works. I am so thankful. Thank you so much for staying with me today and for spending some time with me listening to this reading, and also hopefully watching it, although there's not so much to watch. Thank you so much, guys, and I'm wishing you all the best. Lots and lots of love and silver moonlight from the Witch of the Black Sea. Thank you. Bye.